Okay, the second method of solving, so I was solving by graph and we just learned, now we're going to learn solving by substitution. So in math, when you have something that's equal, it can then be replaced, make a replacement for. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Y equals all this. Would it make sense for me to be able to replace y with this? Does that make sense to you? I'm substituting. Y is equal to this, so I'm now going to insert this to replace it with the y. Okay, so 2x minus 5 times its replacement that is me substituting in, instead of writing y, I wrote its equal partner. Okay, and that's always a property in math, where if you have an equal partner, you can replace it. Okay, so now this is all about algebra. So what kind of algebra strategies would I use going forward? Probably my next step, what would I think? Are you thinking about something that would look like that? We're going to have to distribute. Okay, that's your next algebra move. So see what you can do on your distribution. And don't forget that negative 5 is going to have to keep negative. Okay, so that's step 1 is the distribution algebraic property. Now I'm going to do the collect like terms strategy. So the 2x subtract 10x would go together. And the numbers would go together. And you can do two things here. What do you want to move? Do you want to move the 8x over or the 40 over? It doesn't matter. Let's go. I'm going to move the number over. So this is what I would call isolation. I'm just trying to work to get x alone. So I'm going to move things away from the x. Then I'm going to divide the coefficient away. Okay, so that's x, but I still need a number for y, so where am I going to go figure out that y? I'm going to go back to this highlighted part. Y equals, so y equals 2 times x. Well, guess what? Now I know x. So 2 times x is now 2 times 5. So now I know what x is. So I'm going to do that. 2 times an x of 5. So this is a coordinate where they would intersect. That's what this really is, right? This is a line and this is a line. Where do they intersect? 5, 3. Okay, and again on a test, you can 100% just plug that into the original equation over here and see that it would work. Okay, I think I'm going to skip number 2 today. It looks like the exact same, so I'm going to try to jump to number 3. Okay, so on number 3, here we go. Y equals this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what it's equal to, its equal partner, and I'm going to go into the other equation and make a replacement. Okay, so y equals this expression, so I'm going to take that expression and replace it. Okay, so algebraically, what would be a good thing to do to help us out? My hint would be, I'm guessing none of you like to do math with fractions. That's probably my guess. So we can eliminate fractions by doing something to this. Anybody have a strategy to get rid of that fraction? Times by 3. But what do you have to do? Everything, right? Everything. Remember, it's like candy to kids. If you're going to do that, you have to do it to all. So can you times everything by 3? It's a very common mistake for people to make, that they times this or that by 3 and then they forget to do it to something. So make sure it gets to everything. And then on the fraction, do you remember what happens when there's a divide by 3 and then we times it by 3? That just makes it disappear. Okay, how did our numbers go with our algebra there? Okay, now this would be algebra from grade 9, right? I need to collect x's, so what I would start with would be I'm going to subtract x from each side. Okay, most of this stuff is just about algebra and accuracy, making sure you're doing your numbers right. So get the x's together. Now I'm going to get the numbers together, so I'm going to add 18. And I end up with a fraction. Is that what we're getting? Okay, I'm going to leave that as a fraction. Okay, some of you might have changed it to a decimal. If you did, it would be 1.8. I'm going to leave it as a fraction, doesn't matter, 1.8 is fine as well. Only because that decimal was a nice decimal. If it hadn't have been. Okay, which one do you want to plug it into? Yeah.
Why don't you add the 18 to negative 9?
Right here?
Yeah.
I did. So this was negative 9.
Oh,
and then I added 18, so then that changes it to positive 9.
Oh, really?
You see, yeah, that negative 9 changed to positive 9. It'd be like the temperature being 9 degrees and it warmed up 18. Now it's 9 above.
Okay.
Like Celsius, right? If that makes sense. Okay, so which one do you want to plug it into? It actually doesn't matter. So remember, our goal is to go find y now. So do you want to plug it into this one or that one? And it doesn't matter. Should we just pick the first one? Y equals 2 times x. I'm guessing most of you are just going to be typing this into your calculator, so I may as well use that decimal. If that decimal was a decimal that went on and on and on and on and on, you should use the fraction though. And then you can probably type that into your calculator. That is fine. See if we get the same answer. So this is a coordinate of intersection. So if I answer it, it would be this coordinate is where they intersected. Okay, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to verify this with my applied math. Okay, so people that are taking applied, once you get to grade 11, here's what I would do in applied. Okay, so y equals, here's my first equation, y equals 2x minus 6. So I type that in. The second equation is y equals 1/3 x minus 3. And I'm going to graph. And there you can see the graph is 2 lines. So where do they intersect? So I'm going to go sec and calculate the intersection on this line, and then I'm going to tell my calculator to find it. And here's the answer. 1.8 comma negative 2.4. So that's what we got. Okay? So for people that want to take grade 11 applied, that's kind of a lot of the times how we work with things is the calculator. Okay, number 4, we now actually have x equal to something. So this time I'm going to use that. X is equal to this. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go and replace the x with that expression. Okay, so this is the same idea as we just did, except for I've changed the isolated letter. So before we had y equal to something. This time I'm just going to use the x equal. So give me your replacement for x. There's what I would call my substitution. I replaced x with its equal partner. Okay, algebraically, we've seen this one for example 1. So what's my step here? Distribute is my algebra step. So 4y plus 4 so algebra distribution. Collecting terms would be your next idea. So there was a 4y subtract a 5y, so be careful with your number here. Did you get a negative out of that? And then collect the numbers. So there was a 4 subtract 2, so that would be plus 2. So algebraically, I'm going to move the number. And I'm doing this on purpose because this is where some people go wrong. This is not y. What do I still need to do? I need to divide by -1. That wasn't what y was equal to. That was a negative y. Okay, so y equals, now we're going to go in to the top here, x equals, and instead of y, I now know y is 2. So I'm going to replace okay, so that's what I was doing. I knew the value of y now was the value 2. Okay, so one last question of the day, and then the day will be yours. Okay, so this one is different in the fact that when I look at this and I look at this, I don't have a statement that just has y equals this or x equals this. So we have to pick something to get a loan. Anybody want to pick anything? What looks easier? The X in this, the Y in this, the X in this, the Y in this. What might look the best to get a loan? I'm thinking the X in that one would. And so here's what my brain thought about. When I looked at this, I'd have to do some dividing by 2. I could see that in the future. And I knew 6 and 2 and 2. Oh, those would all divide by 2. So that would be easy math. In this, I was seeing a 2 and a 5. And then I'm thinking, well, if I have to divide one of them, now I'm going to have a fraction probably, right? Okay, so that's my goal. I'm going to get X alone. So 2X will stay. The Y stuff moves and changes. The number stuff moves and changes. And then I have to divide, but I'm doing it to everything. So now I have a loan statement. Once I have a loan statement, now I can go through with the substitution stuff. So I want you to finish this one out on your own, and then we'll check. I'll leave it on the board and you can check. So you're substituting this loan statement in now for that X, okay?